So we've got a pretty interesting rebound chapter here, especially coming off of the previous one where we saw Bakugo kind of getting like physically and mentally destroyed. And we're moving away from Bakugo, at least for the time being. I mean, we're still in the same vicinity, but we're more so just going to be focusing on the big three in this chapter. And that's fine because, to be honest, we haven't really had too much time with them in the series, especially them all working together cohesively like they have been. I think this is like the first time in the series where this has actually been happening. And one of them does something absolutely insane at the end of this chapter. Like, this is probably going to be their defining moment in the series. So let's just get right into it. Titled the chapter is Instability. The chapter begins with a little Tenko Shimura inside Shigaraki's head, thinking about what Mirio said. He remembers telling his mother about how he used to play with his friends. And then what we see next is Shigaraki shouting out loud that Mikun and Tomo-chan always told him that he was kind, and that Mon-chan, his dog, always wanted to go out for a walk with him. So of course he has friends. Mirio is surprised and apologizes. I think he has touched on a sensitive subject. Hey, also guys, if you like my Hero content, please subscribe if you haven't already. It's fine if you don't want to, but if you just needed a reminder, here you go. Thanks. So this sequence right here is equal parts funny, awkward, and tragic. So this is in reference to a sequence from the previous chapter where Mirio was basically calling out Shigaraki / All For One, and he asked him, so why do you destroy? And Shigaraki All For One said, because the current framework has failed. And then Mirio said, oh, I get it. You've never had any friends. Otherwise, you'd realize there's plenty worth keeping around. And when Mirio said this to Shigaraki / All For One, it seems like the Shigaraki side of this entity here had a like harsh reaction to that. And the whole thing about the Tenko personality fragment here, we actually talked about this Sunday in the chapter 360 review, because we originally saw that this was a thing, and I think like chapter 334, after Star and Stripe had wound up dying, and the dying words of like her vestige personality within All For One, as long as people stand up to save each other, someone will inherit that will of heroism, and make no mistake, they will strike you down. And then we go deeper into the Shigaraki All For One consciousness, and it says someone, some hero, and then we see Tenko surrounded by hands, and he says Midoriya. But hey guys, real quick, GamerSup's Christmas in July sale has started today, and it's going to be running till the 31st. And one of the main things that I see here is that if you spend $35, you get a free Shark Girl cup. This is like a really good deal actually. So check out my link in the description, or you can just use code BIGZ. And while you're there, maybe pick up some strawberry lemonade GamerSups or some peach tea. These are currently what I'm drinking, but they have other great flavors too. Thanks guys. So that right there, I guess, was kind of letting us know that there is some kind of backdoor to Shigaraki. Despite him almost being completely taken over by All For One here, there still is like that shred of humanity left within him, which is represented as this mind fragment of Tenko. And as we see here, it still very much is active within Shigaraki. Mirio also realizes that Shigaraki's real body is much tougher than the hands that are growing around, because his wave boosted punch barely caused a scratch. So also in the previous chapter, we saw Nejire was able to assist Mirio with her wave quirk, and Mirio was able to wear it around his fist and forearm and use it as like a strike on Shigaraki, and he hit him like on the core of him, as it said here, but he's stating that that was much stronger than like all of the appendages and fingers and flesh stuff that's coming out of him. So that's also giving us more insight into, I think, the ultimate downfall of him here, as to where it could mean something like he's, you know, stretching himself thin when he does that, in more ways than one, of course. All For One regains consciousness and says that although he and Tomura have merged and become one, there's still one entity that has not fully merged, Tenko Shimura. He judges that spending more time on this fight will be tiring and decides to ignore Mirio, starting to walk towards Bakugo. So yeah, this is classic All For One, and the whole tiring thing could be pointing towards the fragility of his appendages and the growths that are coming out of him, but also of course in reference to Mirio's quirk, his permeability. You know, he can't really be hit, so they're kind of just in this stalemate, especially because Shigaraki's quirks are being shut down at the moment. Mirio is frustrated because he thought he could at least buy some time, and a flashback of the three of them leaving for the battle begins. begins. Right after Mirio's arrival in chapter 359, he asks Nejire and Tamaki to take the initiative in the attack while he uses the element of surprise to rescue Bakugo. Soon after, he would also go on the offensive in order to buy time for the one who could really do considerable damage, Sun Eater. Back to the present, and we see Genis preparing to oppose Shigaraki. Nejire joins him and starts throwing several Nejire pikes, but Tomura, all for one, defends himself with mountains of fingers. We see a brief flashback of Nejire, with her saying that all of her classmates thought that she was arrogant, that because she had a strong quirk, she saw everyone else as inferior. The one who managed to get her to open up was Tamaki, who asked her what her favorite hero was, just as Mirio did with him when they were kids. She says that she was able to become stronger after getting to know both of them better, and what she does next is send some waves in Tamaki's direction. So I guess this is Horikoshi trying to have like Nejire's final character arc here, and yeah, it's understandable that people would think that she's arrogant because she comes across that way in the series, and I've never really liked Nejire as a character. I mean, she's fine, I don't like hate her or anything, but she comes across as smug for sure, and I've just never really liked how Horikoshi has kind of focused on her when she was the focal point of the story. But I guess he's trying to give some insight into why that is here, and ultimately give her growth, and that's fine and all, but I just hope he does the same for class 1A as well. We're running out of time here, and there's so many other characters that are more important than Nejire in the series that require at least this bare minimum level of development to them before it's completely over. The chapter ends with an impressive double spread of Sun Eater with a cannon made from the properties of dozens of animals and fruits, plus Nejire's energy waves. He prepares to shoot while the two other members of the Big Three think to themselves that he is the only one with a quirk without any limits, so he has the best chance to fight against Shigaraki. So this is like the big moment of the chapter here, and we see Tamaki make like this massive, grotesque kind of cannon come out of his arm, and as it says, it's an amalgamation of the food that he's eating, and it kind of resembles the angel arm from Trigun, if you've seen that series, but way more grotesque and creature-like than that. And it's also stated here that the ammunition he's using is Nejire's waves, and this is pretty cool. And it totally makes sense that Tamaki would be able to do this in theory, because we've seen that he was able to fuse the properties of the food that he'd eaten before, but this is like taking it to the highest level. And this could be his quirk awakening. I mean, obviously it's not outright stated here, and sometimes with these quirks and these characters using them, it's, I guess, up for interpretation a lot of times if it actually is a quirk awakening or not, or a quirk evolution, however you want to put it. But I'm assuming that this is going to be Tamaki's big defining moment of the series, and this is for sure like his ultimate of ultimate moves. I don't know how much damage this is going to do, honestly, but I assume that he's going to be focusing on the core of Shigaraki more than just his appendages once he ultimately hits him with this. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the chapter. Let me know what you think about this one in the comments, and if you liked it, please give it a like, and please subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.